cop, first things they want to ask when they come to a training session is, where's lunch and what time are we getting H out of here, right? We came up with this phrase that I really like was, hey guys, we're going to train the task today, not the time. Once we accomplish our task, then we're good, which should give us relatively, we should be able to get out of here early if you guys stay dialed in. If you want to goof off and, read the sports section, then I'll try to get you out of here by 4:30, but there's no promises. And that usually woke them up pretty good and got them dialed in. So I would say, use a little humor, give them something to work for. If they can accomplish their task, they can get out, or that's a great reward system. That and Tootsie Rolls will get any officer to do just about anything. And don't take things personally.
One thing that I used before and it seemed to work was, and it happened here recently in a class that we were teaching, we had a couple of students during a couple of different classes that came through that were very, very adamant about their opposition to what we were teaching. And I was trying to understand why they felt that way. You know what I mean? But, when you do that, you have to make sure that you don't spend too much time focused on that one student. You know what I mean? And you have to kind of focus on a discussion with the whole class to try and maybe help them understand as you go through the content. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and in some ways you're challenged, but you can't spend the entire, amount of time trying to defend that challenge.
Right, yeah. So back on the positive mindset thing, when it comes to developing a positive mindset, what was the most influential lesson you ever learned from one of your mentors, and how did it help you become the leader that you are today?
Probably about halfway through my career, we had a guest speaker come. We went to actually go scope him out first, went to another town, another city in our state to listen to this guy speak. And we thought if he was good, we were going to get his material and play it in our in-service. And his name was Dr. Kevin Gilmartin. And his topic was emotional survival for law enforcement. So I went with the supervisor. We sat and listened to this guy speak, and he's so dry. And he's like, ladies and gentlemen, so monotone, his white-haired little guy, like, oh my gosh, there's no way, right? And then he says in his introduction statement, he goes, ladies and gentlemen, you can tell how burnt out a cop is by the square root. I heard the word square root. I thought, oh my gosh, this guy's losing. And he goes, the square root of a guy says BS. So he didn't use the word, say BS. He goes, how many times a cop says BS in this day, right? I got to go to this BS meeting. I go to this BS union meeting. I got to go to this BS training. Boy, this is bull. This is bull. This is bull. And it made me laugh because I thought, man, that is so true. How many times do you hear cops talk like that? And he was so influential to me because I saw how our guys responded to this. And his whole premise was, look, as a police officer, you have to operate at a certain level. If there's a normal operating line that's a horizontal line, if you see a line in your mind, well, you got to be higher than that because you got to watch guys' hands, right? It could be a deadly force day. It could be a high-speed foot chase. It could be so many things that you have to be dialed in for. So you're burning a lot of premium, a lot of energy. And that's what he was explaining to us, that you're going to be alert. You're going to be alive. You're going to be humorous. You're going to be witty. You're going to be so many things when you're at work. And his whole premise was then when you come home, oftentimes it's time to decompress. When you decompress, you're the opposite of all those things. You're apathetic, right? You don't really have a lot of urge to do other things. You're not leading. You're passive. Where do you want to go eat for dinner? I don't care. I don't give a rip, right? And he drew this little diagram of being up at work. And so basically the people that you don't love in your life see the best of you, and the people that you do love, typically, if following this path, see the worst of you. And he was doing this wavelength, like a radio wave, went up and down, and a guy raised his hand in the class, said, "Hey, I get that. On those three of those downs, those are three of my ex-wives. Down once, down twice, down three times, and the lady I'm with now says she ain't marrying me until I get some help." So and one of the things that he wanted to encourage us in is not to be so hyper-focused, hyper-vigilant on being a policeman, that you do police work, you're not a cop. that you're also a father, you're a fisherman, you're a gardener, you're all these other things. And he encouraged you. And I was proud of my agency that they knew that for the best policeman you can be is to have outside interests. And I remember the story he told was this police agency in Texas got a new chief, and the chief was from Chicago. Well, Texas, typically, what kind of hats do people in Texas wear? Cowboy hats, right? So this agency all had cowboy hats. The chief came down. He's from Chicago. Guess what kind of hat he wanted? Those checkered, like, busk hats, right, that they wear in Chicago. And that did not go over well with these cops. And so they took matters in their own hands. And one day, the chief was smelling urine in the locker room and said, "Hey, someone's peeing on clothes or something." And he goes, "No, chief, someone's peeing on your clothes." And he was, obviously outraged. And he set up hidden cameras. And then basically, Dr. Kevin tells a story of these two pissing bandits coming into the gymnasium or at the police department at midnight and peeing on the chief's clothes because they didn't like the hats that they had to wear. And then even projected, you imagine sitting in front of your family and say, "Johnny, Mommy and I got to sell the house because Daddy was caught peeing on his boss's clothes." I mean, how absurd, but you get so wrapped up in your job. And that's what he's saying, is to have that equilibrium. Don't be so warped. Hang out with other people that aren't policemen. He used the example one time of he said scout leader. He says, when I go to police agencies and I say the word scout leader, and you just say whatever comes to your mind, right? Pedophile, right? Every cop. He said 93% of cops said pedophile. He says he goes to other groups and he says scout leader, and they'll say things like mentor, leader, servant. So anyway, I would say in my life, that was kind of a mentoring watershed moment, was listen to this guy speak and just kind of being your brother's keeper, making sure nobody's too amped up at work that they got to have this particular patrol car when they're all the same basically, but this one's mine. I got my little thing set up in it. Like, come on, let that go, because life's too short.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. We do have a tendency to want to let this job identify us, or, we tend to identify ourselves by this job. And it's more than that. Life is more than that. Like you said, this is our job. Yeah, we may love it, and it may be fun at times. I know it used to be, but it doesn't define us. So what one strategy could we as police instructors consistently apply every day that would help us be better instructors?
I think one strategy would be to remember your why you're doing what you do. I was at my local church the other day, and the youth pastor told me how many kids, once they get out of the church and go to college, they fall away from the faith. And he said they lose their why. And so then he challenged us as youth workers, "What's your why?" I thought that was a good question. What's your why? Why? And I think sometimes we can lose sight of why we're doing what we do. People get under our skin, or because in an instructor, I think you're taking on liability. Hey, this guy shoots and a bullet goes somewhere it's not supposed to go. Well, who was this firearms instructor? Or this guy broke somebody's arm and it shouldn't have been broken. Well, who's his use of force instructor? Or he drove a car and hit somebody and drove too fast. Who's this, driving instructor? So you're taking on a lot of responsibility, and that can burn you out. But I think if you remember your why, and somebody, every once in a while you get that one guy that can't hit the target for whatever reason, and you make a suggestion on how to grip the weapon, or squeezing the trigger, or putting a dummy round in and catching him flinch, and then he develops that. He's successful in doing what he's doing, and that's your why. I think your why is to take the focus off yourself and let these guys also make it to the retirement age because of something that you may have instilled in them that either they don't get sued or they don't get hurt or killed. So I think hanging on to that why.
Let's go ahead and wrap it up. And I wanted to tell you, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your thoughts about mindset on the Police Instructors podcast today. And I really appreciate it, man.
It's been my pleasure, Mike. So
tell us again one more time where the listeners can go to find out more about your business.
You're too kind. My website is www.empowerwellness.net.
Okay, if you guys want to find out more about what Mark Simons does, that's who I'm talking to today, go to www.empowerwellness.net. You'll go to his website and you'll learn all of the services that he offers: personal training, active shooter training for individuals and for businesses. And thanks again, Mark. We will talk to you later, buddy.
All right, Mike, be safe.
If you haven't already, go to your favorite podcast listening app, whether it be Apple iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spreaker, whichever it may be, and find us. You could do the search for the Police Instructors Podcast. And once you find it, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe to us. I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you for joining me.
That's all for this episode of Police Instructors Podcast. Be sure to visit onlinepoliceinstructors.com to get access to all of our episodes. While you're there, sign up to get notified when new episodes are available and get access to our free video series where we show you what it takes to move your training to the internet. Learn to leverage the power and flexibility of the internet and move your training online in a way that facilitates learning retention here on the Police Instructor Podcast.